fucking coast to coast, nigga. I'm back, nigga.
We're open to a Deontay Wilder fight. We're open to a Tyson Fury fight. We're open to every fight in the summer. But yeah, you know, in my mind, with AJ fighting April and probably Dillian fighting around the same time, that would lead them to a big all-British heavyweight fight in the summer. Doesn't mean it's done, doesn't mean it's, you know, we've still got to agree terms with both fighters, but that's what I'd like to do. However, AJ knows he wants to be in the biggest fights possible, and if a bigger fight rears its head, and there's only two bigger fights in the division than Dillian won, and that's Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. And if they appear somehow, 100% willing to look at those as well. But the key is April the 1st. That's the only thing that's on the mind now. I'll do the work in the background with 258 to plan out his year.
Don't live what they rapping. Nick Blicky got put in the casket. Jumped in the game, I'm scoring the basket. Like Coach the Ghost got put on the hit list. He was been supposed to get hit. Looking for them and they know that we drifting. Bullets flying, I swear there's no missing. So now he got hit, he talking snitching. That boy turned to a Christian. Face shot, we ain't leaving no look. Face shot, we ain't leaving no witness. My niggas don't cap either. Big knockers gotta stay with a heater. Hayes died trying to get some pizza. Mars punchy, this shit is a beater. Grim Reaper, sneak creeper. Line them up with a tree shaw. Line them up with a skeezer. If you can't use a bitch, your bitch got hit and you ain't even do shit. Ain't shit out you suck your dick. I know you mad, feeling bad like little Nick. PVJ, just stay in your lane. Niggas took your chain, you ain't do a damn thing. One force movie gon' aim for his brain. Good at the boom.
So Clarissa Shields got super defensive about the way she's squatting this. I haven't seen the criticism as such, but she posted this in response to, I'm guessing in response to some of the observations that some people might have made about the way she's squatting, because it really is bad form. She looks terrible. In fact, the way she's like humping forward at the when she stands up, kind of, and she's kind of hunched over, and then she's humping forward when and then she doesn't go down near enough. And she says that it's due to the fact that she had some sort of injury prior. But anyway, this is her response. She says, I used to be able to go lower in 2018, but I dislocated my knee. But that don't mean the work stops. For all the powerlifting comments, I'm a boxer. You're perfect your craft like I have mine. Then we can talk. You're perfect craft like I have mine. Then we can talk. But I'm pretty certain if somebody else got in the boxing ring, she would have something to say about the way they look and the way they do this and the way they do that. She's very, very sensitive about this stuff. But in actuality, the reason why people are probably going to come at her is because, you know, whether she's a boxer or not, you still got to be able to do the lifts and exercises properly, or else what's the point? Especially when you've got a belt around your waist as if you're some sort of power lifter. I mean, you got some pink, that belt in itself suggests that you take the thing way too seriously, and a lot of it is such pretentious nonsense. The belt that people have around their waist, it doesn't necessarily stabilize the midsection. What it does is sort of help people to lift heavier. I suppose, yeah, it does say, what I do mean is it does stabilize the midsection, but it's not for safety. I used to think it was for safety of the lifter, but what it really does is sort of like anything else. It sort of forces the stability in the middle so you can lift heavier. Without it, you can't lift just as heavy as it. Just, I mean, it's marginal at best, but without it, you can't necessarily lift as heavy as with it. Some people say. So when you see somebody prancing around with that belt, a lot of the times they're just poses. Same thing goes for hand wrap, to be honest with you. So according to this tweet by Michael Benson on the DAZN show, Eddie Hearn, the dangerous thing about Gervonta Davis is he's not a deep thinker, not articulate. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. He's a bad motherfucker like Mike Tyson. That makes him dangerous because he's fearless. He can't get into his head. Now apparently that's been labeled as racist. And my problem with that is that the fact of the matter is, if Gervonta Davis wasn't black, he would be the absolute truth. The difference between this being an honest assessment of Gervonta Davis and being racist is the fact that Gervonta Davis is like a protected species because he's black. And the inference, of course, that it must be racist because Eddie Hearn said this in my opinion, is actually more racist because it suggests that it's some sort of feeling that people have, but must be covered up somehow. And whenever anybody makes an inference to the fact that a particular person, like Gervonta Davis, who grabs women up by the collar, drags them out of an arena, is not very articulate, and says silly things over social media and then deletes them immediately, is not a deep thinker. Okay, and here's the thing. Now, I want to, just for the sake of playing devil's advocate, I'll say this. I think Eddie Hearn is not naive. Eddie Hearn must be well aware of the ways of America at this point. So when he says something like that, he does understand that there's going to be a particular group of people, poorly educated or otherwise, hypersensitive to things to do with white people, who are going to feel automatically that the reason why he said it is because Gervonta Davis is black. And let's keep it a buck, Gervonta Davis does tend to exhibit certain black urban characteristics. So when somebody like Eddie Hearn, who comes from what you might describe as being the absolute polar opposite of the background of Gervonta Davis, says something, there's a tendency for people like Leonard Ellaby, for example, and a person that I'm going to point out is Stephen Espinoza, to jump up, not for reasons of defending or being greatly offended by what he said, but because they seized the opportunity to suggest that this person here, this is a reason why they don't like him, because he's racist. Now I'm going to further the point by looking at what Stephen Espinoza said. And the reason why Stephen Espinoza is actually, what bothers me about Stephen Espinoza's comments on this, his assessment of what Eddie Hearn supposedly said, is the fact that in my estimation, Stephen Espinoza is the one who's actually being more racist here. So let's get to that.
I see a black flag, low nigga get shit. I know he can't get shit back. I'm with the shit, yeah, if you run, get tape.
So here is Stephen Espinoza chiming in. And he says, disgusting. Sometimes the veneer wears off. See, this is what you really need to pay attention to. The fact that he said it's disgusting. I don't understand what was so disgusting about what Eddie Hearn says, but you know, he's trying to suggest something here. And then he says sometimes the veneer wears off and people say what they actually think. In this case, repeating despicable racial tropes. Despicable racial tropes of black fighters as unintelligent and unthinking. That's not what he said. He didn't say that the guy is unintelligent. He said he's not a deep thinker. A lot of people are quite impulsive. It doesn't mean that they're unintelligent. You know what I'm saying? And quite frankly, if somebody were to say that Gervonta Davis is unintelligent and unthinking, the only thing is that Gervonta Davis is protected as a species because he's black. And you can't say anything about him, especially if you're white. But listen, if you want to talk about tropes, we don't necessarily have to make it a racial trope. We make it a social trope of the unintelligent, very inarticulate jock. And they've come in all races from the very beginning. The jocks that used to bully the nerds, they were always regarded as being fucking dumb motherfuckers, whose only advantage was their athletic prowess or whatever the fuck, and they used to go around bullying people. It's not that they were the smartest smartest people in the bunch, were they? But for political purposes, Stephen Espinoza especially has decided to delve into race and make it about black fighters. And that's what I say, that Stephen Espinoza himself is being racist. I'm not saying this to defend Eddie Hearn, by the way. Like I said, Eddie Hearn. You know, here's the thing with Eddie Hearn. The thing that people don't trust about Eddie Hearn is this, is that Eddie Hearn has been around America long enough not to say something like that without knowing that there's going to be certain people, there's certain things you just need to leave alone. Or you could put it a different way. But when you want to be brutally honest and you want to, and you know that you can target certain things, that you're going to sort of trigger certain things within certain people who are insecure, then people can say like, okay, you know what, you're kind of race betting a little bit. And I do not believe that he's done it subconsciously, because you have to know by now that if you are white, and with all the sort of criticism that you get, if you say something like that about Gervonta Davis, even though it is the truth and you can generalize it, some people are going to filter it down to the fact that Gervonta Davis is black, and that's the reason why you said it, and it proves that you, who come from a totally different background, are being racist and condescending towards that black guy. He says black fighters as unintelligent. I know Gervonta and I know Mike, and they're deeper thinkers than the person and they're deeper thinkers than the person who made this statement, which is a lie. To suggest that Gervonta Davis is a deeper thinker than Eddie Hearn is bullshit. It's very patronizing, and this is what you need to be aware of. Stephen Espinoza suggesting that Gervonta Davis, who couldn't make his mind up whether he was with Mayweather Promotions or not with Mayweather Promotions, or with Mayweather Promotions or not, is a deeper thinker than Eddie Hearn. It's full of shit, and it's very patronizing, and that's the kind of person who doesn't tell the truth. So that's why I believe Stephen Espinoza is being called out a lot for this statement here. And you know, and as I said, you know, there's two ways to look at it. But I feel that the culprit, that Eddie Hearn is less of a culprit in regards to this matter than Stephen Espinoza and Leonard Ellaby, who, you know, I tried to find his tweet. I think he might have been taken down because he spazzed out over it because Eddie Hearn, he just needs anything, Eddie Hearn, to start spazzing out. But that's it. It is what it is. So maybe I'll get some responses to what was said. What was the comments, because Stephen Espinoza was called out for this comment as well. So let's look at some comments that came back to Stephen Espinoza after he decided to weigh in to this matter. So this person, in response to Stephen Espinoza, says Hearn was definitely having a sneak and uncalled for shot at Gervonta, but I don't believe it was laced with racist intent. It does seem like you're peddling the racism narrative against someone you dislike within the industry. I think this kind of affected, this particular criticism of Stephen Espinoza affected him, and he responded thus. He responded by saying, oh, and then suddenly he said, I never called him racist, but you said sometimes the veneer wears off. And you said he was using racial tropes. So the veneer wears off, he's using racial tropes, but you never called him racist. You see how cowardly? That's some bullshit right there. And then he says, oh, I never called him racist. I said he's repeating racial tropes. Okay, so people who repeat racial tropes are not racist. And then he said, are they unintelligent, unthinking black athlete? That's not what he said. You're putting words in his mouth suggesting that he's repeating racial tropes. That's not what he said. He said he's not a deep thinker. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody who's a deep thinker. Some people think deeper than others, and some people overthink things as well, which can be a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? Some people, they have muscle memory and they respond out of habit, and some people, they overthink things, like, dare I say, Anthony Joshua does, and it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? And some people don't overthink things, like Deontay Wilder, and it's been effective at times, and sometimes, you know, he's out of his element. I never said anything about his intent. You're the only one who mentioned racist. Well, come on, let's not put, you see here, has plenty of semantics. And then somebody else, what does this one say? This one say, I think you're race baiting with your original content. I think you're race baiting with your original comment, forgive me. Let me say that again. I think you're race baiting with your original comment and deliberately using weasel words, in truth, weasel words to deflect attention from yourself by calling others the real racist. It's beyond facetious, it's cowardly and disturbing. I don't know about that, you know what I'm saying? I think you're just looking for an opportunity to use the term facetious. You know what I'm saying? I think a person's just trying to use facetious. I don't necessarily applies here, you know what I'm saying? You could use the term like spurious, you know what I'm saying? But facetious, I'm not sure about that. Alright, anyway, there's some other comments, but you know, that's more or less the pushback he was getting. There were one or two people, one or two nignogs, of course, who were getting on there suggesting like, oh yeah, you know, Eddie Hearn's racist, but I call him Nig Dog. So once you got Nig Dog's backing you, you know you've lost. Anyway, let me stop this one here.
But no, she can't ride the O. Baby, come on and just ride the O. If shit get heavy, we slide, you know. Bitch, I'm not with the Facebook politicking. Beat on my chest, that grabber kicking. If I op run up, I'm flucksmithing. Gang, gang, gang. No cap, I'm a boom him. 4-5 when I slide, cause I'm ruthless. Little opt out for the gang, so broomstick.
And according to Michael Coppinger, Shakur Stevenson and Japan's Shoshiro Yoshino, are finalizing the deal for April 8th fight on ESPN that is expected to determine a new mandatory challenger for the WBC lightweight title, sources told ESPN. You know, these things get so long-winded. So he's gonna fight some guy called Shoshiro Yoshino, okay, just so he can become the mandatory challenger. It's an eliminatory, what do you call it? Eliminator. It's an eliminator just to get the WBC lightweight. When it comes to WBCs, there's always these eliminator upon eliminator, this layer upon layer upon layer. You know, you could fight this one and you can still get put into a position whereby you still have to fight another eliminator after that. But speaking of Shakur Stevenson, let's look at what's been said. Some thoughts I have in regards to the people, his difficulty at finding fights and getting fights. So much so they have to fight Japan Shoshiro Yoshino. I bet that's going to be a horrible fight. You know, it is what it is. So according to Matt Coppinger, and this was retweeted by ESPN Ringside, the WBC ordered an eliminator between Stevenson and Isaac Cruz, but the Mexican is choosing a different path. William Zepeda was next in line, but Oscar De La Hoya tweeted that he passed on the fight because he needs more exposure for Zepeda to create a super fight with Shakur. Alright? And then there's this one, George Kambosos, who lost his undisputed lightweight championship to Devin Haney last year, was next up in the ranking, but he declined the bout. I'm on a well-deserved holidays with my kids, anticipating my return mid-next year, Kambosos tweeted last month. Now, in as much as Kambosos is concerned, I can understand that, you know what I'm saying? I think that Kambosos did put in work. He went from fighting Teofimo Lopez to fighting Devin Haney twice. And I got to be honest, when you take those kind of fights and you take 2 losses like the way he did against Devin Haney in your own backyard, the last thing you want to do is go straight into a fight with Shakur Stevenson. So I suppose I can give him a pass. In as much as I Cruz and Zepeda, let's just keep it a buck. Regardless of what, you know, the people who push for these kind of fights too, you know what's going to happen in the fight. You know that Shakur Stevenson is definitely going to outclass both of those fighters. So it is what it is, man. You know, Shakur Stevenson goes in there with Oscar Valdez. We all kind of had a suspicion of what was going to happen, but it's even worse for Oscar Valdez than we suspected. And this was after Oscar Valdez was coming off a big win against Beltran. So a lot of these Mexican fighters, whether it's William Zepeda or whether it's a fucking Isaac Cruz, just because he supposedly gave Gervonta Davis's short ass a hard time in the ring on a very short notice, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean that we should be pushing for Isaac. I mean, people want to see this kind of. I think people just lust for that kind of nonsense. If it wasn't for Gervonta Davis, I suppose if you put Isaac Cruz in there with Shakur Stevenson, taking away the difficult fight he supposedly gave Gervonta Davis, I think a lot of people will be calling it cherry picking, to keep it real with you. And in as much as William Zepeda, I don't really know much about the guy, but I do know if he's of that sort of Mexican ilk, then it's more or less going to be the same thing as putting Zotto in with Bivol, and the result is going to be what it is. And I think a lot of Mexicans are aware of it. They know what they're selling. They're selling their mano a mano Mexican fighter nonsense. But when you put it in with a seasoned elite fighter, not of the type that you got with Meldrick Taylor and all them, you know, the kind of people that were forced into those kind of fights against Luis Chavez back in the day, and they still got robbed or whatever. or Pernell Whitaker. Those days are over. People got social media, they know what's going on, they're gonna see it. And you can't be robbing them motherfuckers like you did back in the day. So, you know, the stakes are a lot higher. So for me, when you get these William Zepeda and Isaac Cruz and they duck in a fight from Shakur Stevenson, I say more power to them. You know what I'm saying? You know, man's got to know his limitations. It is what it is. And I don't know. I feel for Shakur Stevenson, but you know, sometimes you can become a victim of your own success. And quite frankly, I can't feel too sorry for you, especially after the way you treated the other guy, the fighting Marine. So set your ass right in a way. But you know, I think you're gonna be okay. In any case.
We spend back block, now they hopping fences. Gang. And we gon' keep running the city. He could get shot, be ballin' like I said, fuck that chip, so McKinley.
So this is something that was put up by the Boxing Voice. Old school Boxing Voice. This is Nez, one of his best friends. I like this one actually, to be honest with you. I saw somebody post it, but I was doing something, I didn't watch it. And now I got to watch it, I find it very interesting. You know what I'm saying? I mean, obviously he's belaboring the point a bit, but it is what it is. Let's listen to what he has to say here.
Say strap season, do the shirt stay strap season.
And he's
do
still
the shirt, he's still gonna have do the door say Terrence Crawford, do it fucking say Keith.
It say strap
do it
season.
Say Keith or do it say TC?
It say strap season.
And do it say TC?
It does.
Alright, so it don't say strapless. It don't say strapless.
That's your thing.
He charged me $80 for this shit and the fight ain't even happening. $80. You lied to me again.
Days.
You lied to me again because I go get the other one out the closet when he beat Ugas. He keep fucking lying. He said he wouldn't fight Keith. He fought Keith. After the Ugas fight, he made a shirt with doors on it and Crawford name with Crawford eyes in the door. Now what? What? Now we got this? Man, get the man bullshit, man. You clowning. You stealing our money. How many of these shirts you sold at $80? How many of these shirts you sold at $80 trying to tell us you was about to fight Bud next? Man, and y'all saying I'm hating. No, you motherfuckers is just dumb. You dumb. But y'all the same ones. Y'all the same ones get cheated on. Y'all the same ones wife just take your credit card and run a mess with. Fucking shopping spree. You a pushover, walkover ass nigga. Foot mat type of motherfucker. I clean my feet on your weak ass. You small back motherfuckers. Pussies. That's what y'all is, and never be me. Never be me. For real.
My question is this, though. The one question I have is this. Regardless of the outrage, and I understand, it seems kind of genuine. You cussing everybody else out, I really don't think it fixes the problem, because why would you pay $80 for a t-shirt like that if you weren't fanboying in the first place? If you weren't fanboying, why did you pay $80 fucking dollars? You must have money to burn. $80, you know, for a t-shirt with horrendously bad art on it, trolling another fighter. You paid $80 for a t-shirt that was designed to troll and do nothing else. It wasn't suggesting that he didn't have Errol Spence's face on it, covered in belts or anything like that. It was a t-shirt designed to troll Terrence Crawford specifically. Big fish, strap season, etc., etc. But I do understand the premise of your rant. But let's keep it a buck. You cussing everybody else out and this and that, and people saying you're hating. Well, they can say you're hating because they could see you're a bit salty for paying that amount of money, and it does seem like you're salty. That's the reason why you're all up in your feelings. You know, I mean, you've already been walked over. If you can pay that amount of money for a fucking shitty, ugly ass t-shirt like that, which you never, seems to me you never wore. Seems to me you just bought it just because like you just wanted to fucking fanboy for the dude. Because what's it still doing in this case, in its packaging? What were you gonna do with it? You just bought it, you just paid the dude $80 fucking dollars, like a lot of fucking poor ass niggas out there. And I understand that you probably got money to burn like that, but you know, this is the sort of ludicrous, the sort of absurd nature of boxing fans. This is why I don't fuck with them, I don't rock with them. But I do like the Boxing Voice though. You know what I'm saying? That's why I say old school Boxing Voice. When I started watching boxing on YouTube, I started with them back in the day.
I keep a stick, no in the law. He fumbled a bag and I ran it all. Get money, get a nigga wrapped up, no mummy. Have niggas trying to beef for no money.